join me in the prayer of illumination?
Lord, the gifts of your word is a light for our path. Help us to study your way and follow your teachings, to love you and adore you, to delight in you forever. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
I'll turn it over to Pastor Ron.
Morning. Good to be back with you. Had a great time. I'm always truly amazed when I go down there and watch the kids play softball. The girls' softball is, you can't believe how important it is down there. What a powerful thing it is. We went there what Carol was talking about, we went there last Sunday, and the first game that we had there was at 8 o'clock on Sunday morning. Okay? And there are 4 fields where we were at. 3 of them were in use all day long from 8 o'clock in the morning till dark. One of them was almost all day long, so there was 4 of them almost all day long. Girls softball. They even have a place, I don't know where it's at, probably at the school, where they play girls softball in the wintertime. Inside. I don't know. Boy, that was dedication, isn't it? It makes you wonder sometimes. It really is important in our life. Hallie, what is it? Hallie, Jolie. Hallie Jolie. I gotta see her. I didn't get a hold of her, but I gotta see her. Everything going well? Good. I was hoping she'd be here so I'd have a chance to hold her, but no. I did get a chance to see her though. And the odd thing was the nurse in there that was with them when they were, and Hallie was there in the little crib, and one nurse was in there taking care of it as they do. And I was talking, of course, to them, and the nurse, I just getting ready to leave, the nurse said, "Are you still preaching, Ron?" And this was a girl that I had been with and had married actually in Payson those many years ago, and here she was in there with him. And I hadn't seen her at all that time. She was just a doll. She really was. It was great to see her. So that was a double thing for me. It really was. Good to be with you. This is kind of let's put it this way. For those of you who are football fans, you've heard the Green Bay Packers and Vince Lombardi, right? Okay, Vince Lombardi was good. I mean, as a coach, he was a wonderful coach, and a lot of coaches learned a lot out from him. He had seminars, and this one guy that was going to be a coach eventually went to one of his seminars. And as the seminar started, Coach Lombardi, now if you know anything about the Green Bay Packers, the sweep is a big deal. They even call it the Green Bay sweep, where you go around the outside or you go out either side, and that's the big thing for that team. Okay, that's what he started with at first thing in the morning, was how to run that sweep on either side. He was on that one play all morning. The guy that was writing this said, "Well, I'll go out, when are you going to come back?" You know, well, I'll come back and see, there's got to be something else. Came back the rest of the afternoon, that man concentrated on one play, the sweep. All day long, one play. What I'm going to do this morning is I have one play. And I'm going to go after it 2 or 3 times, okay? From different angles. So just stick here with me. I hope I can help you and myself learn something. Okay, it's 10:38 through 42. Now, as they went on their way, he entered a certain village where a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. She had a sister named Mary who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to what he was saying. But Martha was distracted by her many tasks, so she came to him and asked. Now, why in the world would he get mixed up in that situation? I'm not sure. Anyway, he did. 2 sisters getting involved in that, not a good idea. "Lord, do you not care that my sisters left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her to help me." But the Lord answered her, "Martha, Martha, you are worried and distracted by many things. There is need of only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part, which will not be taken from her." Jesus says, "Martha, you're anxious troubled about many things. That, folks, is a perfect description of many of our lives today. Anxious and troubled about many things. I read recently that about a good metaphor for our world today. It seems that Magnavox, you know that is, the electronics company, has dramatically increased the number of picture-in-picture TVs they are building because of the demand. Now, for those of you who don't know, these picture-in-picture TVs enable of viewers to watch two shows simultaneously on one screen. Anybody have a picture-in-picture TV? They're available. When used in conjunction with a video cassette recorder's tuner, the viewer can watch two live programs simultaneously, or one live and one taped. The second program appears in an inset box located in the corner of the television screen. Studies show that 75% of television watchers already view two shows at the same time by flipping back and forth between channels using a remote control. How do you guys do that? Go ahead, put your hands up. Magnavox calls this trend grazing. It's also called channel surfing. And a lot of us do that. I am really guilty of that. And I suppose, by the way, we got a Roku now, or whatever that, I don't know what, anyway. And before I had just the other, and I could just switch, I had to put it on two channels and just switch back and forth. This thing, you got to go back through 2-3 different steps to get to work. So it's really cut into my channel. Now, I suppose that by skillful flipping the remote while you're watching picture-in-picture TV, you could actually watch 4 shows at a time. There you go. Don't get any better than that. Now, young people have no idea that once upon a time, families were actually content to watch one program at a time for more than 2 hours. Now, you all remember, as I do, with only 2 or 3 channels available. That's what we had. And we had 2. They were local and pretty good. And if you got the rabbit ears just right, or sometimes you can get the 3rd ABC channel. Not always, but just sometimes. And the real sticker was no remote. You actually had to get up off your chair and go turn the television. We're a restless people obsessed with many things, and certainly we are anxious about these many things. We've even coined a term for this particular description. It's called stress. Studies show that stress may be killing more of us than AIDS. About 25 million Americans are thought to have hypertension, although half this number don't even know they have it. Hypertension. Stress. Stress is frequently found in a major cause for respiratory infections, arthritis, colitis, asthma, even heart rhythms, many sexual problems, circulatory problems, and even cancer. All because of the stress. The doctors of the American Academy of Psychosomatic Medicine believe that 75 to 90% of all reported diseases are due in part to stress. You're probably right. It's killing us. The 3 best-selling prescription drugs in America are, anybody want to guess? Excuse me? That's one. Enderall, Valium, and Tagamet. All stress related. Leaders in industry estimate that $50 to $75 billion are lost each year due to stress-related symptoms. Folks, stress takes a heavy toll on all of us to some degree. And even if our health is not at risk, certainly our peace of mind is. Some of us are like the couple who had their home broken into. The husband heard a voice in the middle of the night. He went downstairs to investigate and found a burglar emptying the silver chest. He said to the man, "Stay right where you are. I want to get my wife. She's been expecting you for 20 years." We're anxious about and troubled about many things today, but listen to Jesus' word. One thing is essential. Here's a secret to a successful, well-ordered life. Make sure your priorities are in order. What are those things in your life that are really vital? Take care of those first, and then the rest will get done. If it does, fine. If it doesn't, it's no big deal. You know. John C. Maxwell tells about an Eastern Airlines jumbo jet that crashed in the Everglades on Florida sometime back. Jumbo jet. The plane was in a famous 401, that's Flight 401, bound from New York to Miami, with a heavy load of holiday passengers. As the plane approached the Miami airport for its landing, the light that indicates proper deployment of the landing gear failed to light. The plane flew in a large looping circle over the swamps of the Everglades. Well, the cockpit crew checked to see if the gear actually had not deployed or if instead the bulb in the signal light was simply defective. When the flight engineer tried to remove the light bulb, it wouldn't budge. The other members of the crew tried to help him. As they struggled with the bulb, no one noticed the aircraft was losing altitude. The plane simply flew right into the swamp. Dozens of people were killed in the crash, while an experienced crew of high-priced pilots filled with a 75-cent light bulb, the plane with its passengers flew right into the ground. Was that light bulb really that important? That happens sometimes. It happens in business, it happens in the home, it happens in our daily lives. We lose sight of what really matters, what's important. Now, Martha wanted to be the perfect hostess. We all understand that. Well and good. But the master was in her home, and he only had a short time to spend there, and as it turned out, that was the last time Jesus would ever be in her home. That was her missed opportunity. Certainly the needs of her guests were important, but this was not the time. This wasn't the time. Jesus was there. How foolish we can be when we don't keep life in its proper perspective. And we do it all the time. Example. Mountain guide named Michael Sanger once told of leading some men up Mount Shasta. One man was having great difficulty breathing. His face coloring was unusual. Something was going on. Frequent stops for rest didn't seem to help much. As he continued to climb, his breathing was punctuated by coughing and spitting up blood. To make matters worse, a sudden snowstorm confined them to a hastily erected tents. Michael thought the man might die of heart failure. As he lay there, Michael told him that they could call for rescue helpers because he had a cellular phone. The man, of course, was interested. And he asked him, he said, "Would you make a personal call for me?" Michael thought to himself, well, this man probably knows he's critical. He wants to speak to his loved ones one last time. So he said, "Yes, of course." Well, said the man, "Would you call my broker in San Francisco and ask what the value of my stock is today?" Actually happened. Actually happened. The absurdity of what is important in this man became a frequent joke for future climbers. I'm sure. I can see lots of ways I can use it. Jesus is also saying here, though, folks, don't miss out on the opportunity to give love and to receive love. After all, love is the true essence of life. A pastor named Stuart Sachs tells of serving a church in Paraguay. One day, a native Maca Indian man named Rafael came to visit Sachs. When Sachs asked Rafael what he wanted, Rafael replied in his own language, "I don't want anything, I have just come near." Rafael just wanted to sit on Sachs' porch and be near his new friend. He just wanted to enjoy his presence. How often do you do that? For more than a decade, British journalist Oliver Burkeman wrote an advice column on the Guardian newspaper. In his final column, he shares some of the lessons he learned over the years on the secret of living a happy life. Now here's an excerpt from his final article. Listen to this. There will always be too much to do, and this realization is liberating. Today more than ever, There's just no reason to assume any fit between the demands of your time, all the things that you would like to do or feel you ought to do, and the amount of time available. The only viable solution is to make a shift from life spent trying not to neglect anything to one spent proactively and consciously choosing what to neglect in favor of what matters most. I'll read that again. The only viable solution is to make a shift from a life spent trying not to neglect anything to one spent proactively and consciously choosing what to neglect in favor of what matters most. What matters most. See, we can't do it all. Can't have it all. In fact, the all we are looking for cannot be attained by our striving. The all we are desperately need for peace and fulfillment and happiness can only be found in knowing our God. Jesus knew that, and he focused his time and his energy accordingly. Mary understood that, so she neglected her host's duties to sit by Jesus' feet and enjoy her time with him. Oh, that we could learn that, you and I. But it's hard, isn't it? The demands are there. I mean, there's no denying that in all of our lives. I understand that. In verse 41, 42 of our Bible passage, Jesus says, Martha, Martha. Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken from her. Can't lose that, you see, that relationship. Historian James Truslow Adams tells a time-honored story he heard from a friend who had spent a couple of years living with indigenous people in the upper Amazon. A group of Amazonian men had been traveling through the forest for 2 days, making great progress on their journey. But on the third day, they stopped and rested. There seemed to be no reason for their stop. No one was injured. They weren't suffering from exhaustion. So the American man asked the group leader why they stopped. The leader replied, they are waiting. They cannot move farther until their souls have caught up with their bodies. When Martha brought her stress and complaints to Jesus, he heard her deepest need. He wanted Martha's soul to catch up to her body. So he encouraged her to follow Mary's example and neglect her work in favor of resting and enjoying time with him. He was saying to her and to all of us, lay down your temporary burdens and take up an eternal purpose. It's the only thing you need. It's the only thing that can never be taken from you. Final story. In 1938, a Jesuit priest named Pedro Arrupe moved to Japan to serve as a missionary. After the bombing of Hiroshima in 1945, Father Arrupe led one of the first rescue groups in the area. He and his colleagues risked their own lives to find survivors and to get them medical care. He was also influential in getting the Jesuit order to focus their ministries on those living in poverty. Now, Father Arrupe wrote a beautiful poem on what it means to live with only one purpose and only one focus. I think his message perfectly expresses what Jesus wanted from Martha and from us to discover. This is what he wrote. Nothing is more practical than finding God and falling in love in a quite absolute final way. What you're in love with, what seizes your imagination, will affect everything. It will decide what you'll get out of bed in the morning, what you will do with your evenings, how you will spend your weekends, what you read, whom you know, what breaks your heart, and what amazes you with joy and gratitude. Fall in love. Stay in love, and it will decide everything. The one thing we need, the only thing that can never be taken from us, is our love for Jesus. This love will change everything about our lives, folks. certainly didn't lie. We decide what gets us out of bed in the morning, what breaks our heart, what amazes us with joy and gratitude. And that comes from spending time with Jesus. So I encourage you to lay aside your agenda and your distractions and spend some time praying, meditating, worshiping Jesus every day. Fall in love with Him. Stay in love with Him. And it will decide everything about your life. Let us pray. Help us, Lord. Help us to put away all those distractions. And there are many. Some of them are valid distractions. But I wonder how important they really are. We need to look through our lives in that regard and make some tough decisions about how we spend our time and our money and our efforts, just our lives. Because each day counts. And when it really counts, you, oh God,